Hey, welcome back to the channel. Yet another video about the house building process. So the next stage in this process is how a house gets framed. So we already did a video about the pieces of how it all goes together, but the process, the steps, is what this video is all about. Now you're probably saying to yourself, now Rich, there's no house behind you in frame. Well, we're going to show you how that occurs, and actually there is a whole house that's standing here behind me. So you've got steel over here, you've got lumber, you've got plywood and sheathing, you've got floor joists, and then way over here you've got the floor trusses that'll top the whole thing off. Now obviously there's a process for this big jigsaw puzzle to come together, and that's what we're about to dive into. So the first thing you have to do when you're preparing a home to be framed is to actually have it ready to be framed. Now you can't quite see it on this particular build, but I'll have Sarah insert a picture up here. There's a piece of steel that spans this whole foundation that's going to support what's above it. There's also posts that are down in the hole that attach to that steel that keep it ready to go. From there, then they're actually going to start the framing process. So the framing process, obviously you have the foundation, then you have the sill seal, and again I'll have Sarah put a picture of that up here in the corner. Then they're going to put on what's called a sill plate. This sill plate is pressure treated lumber because concrete touching wood, concrete will always wick water up, and even though you have a sealer between it, you don't want that water to rot out this sill plate, so you have pressure treated lumber. That is attached with this bolt so that the house stays attached to the foundation. Now in this particular house, they're putting in a floor joist. Now it's no different than putting in an I-joist or putting in dimensional lumber to start the flooring process, but the floor joists go in after the sill plate goes on. So along with putting in the floor joist, they're going to start putting on what's called a band board. Now they've literally just started it on this project, but this runs perpendicular to the floor joist and then it's attached here. Now also there may be hardware that attaches things, keeps it from all falling over. So once we get the steel beams in and we get those posts in to support what's going to be above it, then the actual construction begins. So we're standing on a job site. This is a home that has just started framing. So a couple of things that I'll point out. Number one, they've started to put down the floor. So once that floor goes down, then they start assembling walls. So right directly behind me, you might not be able to see it on video, but we'll insert a picture. They're building the wall, laying down, and then they will stand it up once it's constructed. That's all built based upon a blueprint. A blueprint is just like an instruction manual for a big jigsaw puzzle. Now, also within this site, you'll notice that these walls that have been stood up have bracing on them. That's the angled piece that comes down. Very, very important when you're building a home. Don't go on a job site because these braces are temporary. And if one of those braces were to come down, you could get severely hurt. There have been whole buildings that have fallen down just because someone bumped into or knocked loose a piece of this bracing. So let's talk about the other things that are happening here on the job site. So there's big open holes in the floor. That's where the staircases are going to go down. They're also starting to put up along the top, there's a top plate that comes in like this, and then there's another board on top of that that spans that, keeps that wall straight. Really crucial that they do those steps so that you don't get a wall that has give in it. So now let's take a look at what happens once we get these walls up. So once the first floor gets stood up, like the house behind us, they'll put start putting the wrap around the outside. That's part of the waterproofing. Now we'll cover all about waterproofing in another video. That's not what we're going to cover here. But they'll start putting a wrap on, or they'll start waterproofing the exterior of the property. Then the second story goes on just like the first, with a few minor changes. Okay, so we've moved out to a little bit of a quieter job site so that we can kind of go through the pieces parts as they're all assembled as they are behind us. So we talked about the walls getting stood up. We talked about the second story going on. Well, this house is in the next stage of that construction, but it's important that we talk about a couple of things here. So this door opening, the window opening, those are what's called roughs. That means it's a rough opening so that the door and the window can slide into those openings. Those are done as part of the framing, and of course they're done by the blueprint or the plan to the big jigsaw puzzle, right? They also have put sheathing on the outside of this house. Now it doesn't have a wrap on it yet, so I wanted to get a good shot of that so that you can see what it would look like underneath before they put that wrap on. Now, moving up a little bit, you're going to see that they also cut in a hole for a vent up where the trusses are being vented. That ventilation is really important to the overall efficiency of the house, keeping an airflow going through there. Now additionally, you'll see temporary supports. They haven't put the posts in yet that are holding up this porch, so they've got temporary supports on. Once again, very important that no one be moving in and out of this house, especially if there are little ones around. They might bump into those and it could really create some real havoc. Now, moving all the way up, you'll notice that they've also built the overhangs here on the end of the trusses. Now that's a whole separate technique. We could do a whole video just on that little piece and the complexities that go into that. But just suffice it to say that this is done at this stage of the framing. Now, this is a good place to note that you can see all the pieces as it goes up through the house. You've got the foundation, you've got the bandboard, you've got the sheathing, you've got the eaves, you've got the rough openings. All of those things are all engineered into the plan. If one of those members is in the wrong place, then either a window's not going to fit, a door might not fit, your rooms might not have that window in the perfect place. All of these things are real crucial when they're building. So at this stage, a lot of things are going to be happening all at once. Now we're going to talk now about windows going in. So we happened to luck out and we found a house that doesn't have all the windows in. So they start by putting this vapor barrier on. It's like a waterproof. This happens to be Tyvek. There's different kinds. Notice that the inside of the window rough has Tyvek that wraps around the inside. There's also Tyvek that rolls over the edge to protect against water. Now, they also will seal up all the seams on the Tyvek so that it maintains that waterproof presence. Once they install a window, then they will come in and put this flashing tape around the outside, always overlapping so that gravity pulls the water down. Real crucial that you pay attention to this, because the water getting in behind it, that's just pure wood right back behind there. All kinds of little things start happening as well. So like in this case, they started putting the steps in that go into the house. That makes it easier for the workers, obviously, to get inside. You'll also notice that on this one, they poured the concrete while this is still in framing. So all of these things can overlap. And of course, we'll do a completely different video on concrete. Roof is obviously a crucial part of keeping water out of the home. And water is the enemy of any home. So on top of the roof deck, there's going to be a thing called felt, or a waterproof membrane that will go on. So right about here, there's felt going on this roof. That is the actual waterproofing, okay? Then they'll put shingles on top to act as a heavy-duty covering over top of that waterproofing. So in the process of all this building, there's a lot of things that get cut and sawdust made and everything else. So one of the things that most superintendents are going to be very, very picky about is making sure that the site stays clean. Now, we came back to a house that I did another video in before. This is one of the cleanest job sites I've ever seen. You'll notice as you look around, the lumber that's left over, there's little stacks of it there. There's a nice neat pile for the hardware, those kind of things. And you don't see a lot of other things laying around in the house. Now that's really a sign of true professionalism, and something that in a later video we'll talk about things to look for. This is the primary thing that I look for when I'm looking at a framed house. How do they take care of the job site? And crucial that people don't get hurt when they come in and step on a nail or do those kind of things. So along with keeping a job site clean, it's not just the interior of the home that's important, it's the exterior as well. So I'm standing here in front of, I call it a lumber stack. This is the leftover materials from when they framed up this house, and these are boards that are left over. Now that doesn't mean that these are free to carry away and go build shelves. These are the pieces that they'll use to do the blocking in this house, to do any repairs to anything that gets damaged along the way. This is kind of a good sign that a job site's well maintained though, because these boards aren't laying all over this job site. They're all stacked up here nice and neat, easy for people to access. Now just one more thing while I'm standing here, a lot of job sites will put a porta potty on site. Yes, it is okay if you're out on the job site, you need to go, the kids need to go, it is okay to use those. That is for the workers so that they're not using the facilities inside a home that's under construction. Also part of maintaining a clean job site is obviously some place to put the trash, right? So there'll be these big dumpsters that'll show up on site. This is where they'll put all the scraps and everything that is cleaned up as they build the house. Now, real important. A lot of people will try to go dumpster diving, okay, to get that one little piece of wood. There's nails, there's all kinds of glues and all kinds of stuff that gets dumped in these dumpsters. Don't jump in the dumpster unless you get the express permission of the superintendent that's working on the home. So we've given a brief overview of how a house actually gets framed up. Now obviously there's a lot of skilled tradespeople that go into bringing that big puzzle together and ending up with a product that's like this. So if you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, let us know in the comments, and we'll catch you in the next video.